I've decided to put the worst team in the SEC, and I'll be rebuilding them until we win a championship. Southern Miss is coming off a 1-11 season, but I wanted them to join the conference with other Mississippi schools, and that state matters a lot in this rebuild because it's the only state that I'm going to be allowed to recruit in. It's going to be a difficult challenge. We also have it on Heisman with the slowest Coach XP setting, and there's no way that this roster does well in the SEC. They just went 1-11, and our quarterback's also only a 69 overall. Our head coach, though, Charles Huff, has the craziest story because he comes from Marshall, where he just won the Sun Belt Conference. But to simply put it, he and Marshall couldn't come to a new contract agreement, so he left the best team in the conference for the worst team. I don't think that's ever happened before, but now we've made his life much worse as he's going to have to face against an SEC schedule. And I'd like to think that that man is just like us. He reached the highs at one school, and now he wants to start off fresh, rebuilding a much worse one. As you could just see, the school grades don't look good. We can also only go after players from the state of Mississippi, and that's going to really hold back this roster. At the moment, the quarterbacks available are a 2-star, a 3-star, and then a 4-star that's not interested. But I can't say that statistically either of these guys look like they would be any good. There's only 2 players in this class I want. Wide receiver Frank Mallory, he comes in with 93 acceleration, and then this agile Jim that we'd move over to our defensive line. My hope is as the year goes on, we can find some more talent from Mississippi. We'll see if we can beat Mississippi State, but I think we're even gonna have a hard time doing that. At least the crowd has showed up since we're now in the SEC. Well, here in the third quarter, we're only trailing by 10 points. I think we've just given up a touchdown though. And who would have thought that using a 69 overall quarterback isn't going too well? John has no one to throw to. It's not like I can find anybody that's really getting open versus this defense. I'm hoping that we can toast them, but they are getting some safety help. We caught that ball. See, this is something to be a little bit excited about. I'm not sure how we held on to that right there, but I will be looking back in Dakota Thomas's direction in case he can do it again. Nope, it's an interception. That is going to happen a ton in this video. If you're new to the channel, you better start to get used to those. And our championship dreams with Southern Miss have a long way to go. We're just a 1-star school. Looking at our team needs, it says that we have 40 of them total. But as I was offering scholarships, we got very lucky. We got an insta commit from this receiving back. Even though he only has 87 speed, he could be useful. The thing is, once we run out of 3-stars to target from the state of Mississippi, we're going to have to move on to some other 3-stars or some of these 2-stars even. And don't get me started on the fact of signing a 1-star and then putting him up against SEC competition. I allow myself to hop into 3 regular season games a year. It forces me to build a good roster. What I did against FCS Midwest though was I simmed. It gets us our first win. And that is all with Alan Menken at quarterback because John White got injured. We are very fortunate that the freshman is only going to be out for a few weeks. I don't care what Allen did in that last game. He is only a 55 overall. There is no reason that we need him on the field for us at like any time. And you can see that he has a lot of room to grow, but we're just going to keep on simming through the year. I wanted to get to this Marshall game so Charles Huff could coach against his former school. We're coming off of 2 pretty close losses, but this is probably the last winnable game on our schedule, and I do not want to go 1-11. Now, I have noticed that the SEC patch has not even properly loaded onto these jerseys. Just a fantastic job from EA with that. And I don't know how it even ended up being broken because at one point during this release, that feature worked. The immersion is going to run deep in this rebuild though with a big black circle on our chest. And did you notice who was in at quarterback? It's Alan Menken, but with this RPO, he's actually putting it on the money. We've gotten it back within 7 against Marshall, but it's still going to be super difficult for us to win this game. If they hit this field goal, they're going up by 2 possessions. They have missed it to the left though. And we are currently trying to march down the field with a 55 overall quarterback, but we had somebody open. That was the most delayed release I think I have ever seen. We're going to have to hope for the best on this 4th and 16. It's thrown behind us. We didn't even catch the ball. And there's been no hope to getting the football back either. This one's over. Head coach Charles Huff just lost against his former school. It makes sense though. He left the best team for the worst one. But it's okay though. Me and him are going to go on a long journey to get Southern Miss a championship, and it all starts with signings like this. We've already brought in the few players that I wanted. We're also on track to get pretty much everybody else. There's not much competition down here in Mississippi for the 3-stars. But it turns out there is some competition for the 2-stars. We lost out on the quarterback, and then Mississippi State did actually take a couple 3-stars. Now that we've gotten SEC play, I know that the rest of this season's going to be pretty rough, so I'm probably going to just sim through most of this. But to be fair, you can't drop one of the worst teams in college football in the SEC and expect them to be good in season number 1. It's going to take some time for us to get better, and I really hope that Brian is never our starting quarterback. I mean, we've been able to bring him in alongside some other 3-stars, but we're also losing a lot more battles than I originally thought we would. And I I have no idea if the players that we're signing from Mississippi are even good at this point because we don't have enough hours to scout them. There is some pretty crazy news though. We're not going to go 1-11 because we won at Missouri. Somehow we doubled their score. But deep down, I know this first season's over, so we're just going to sim through our final 2 games. I don't think anybody's going to be surprised that we came up short against Vanderbilt. And then I thought Texas was going to blast us, but we finished above them in the SEC standings. I don't know how this is even possible, but the Longhorns are only a 5-17. And I feel like sim being on our side has helped us sign a lot of 3-stars we wouldn't have gotten otherwise. Now, one thing I've considered for the future of the program is getting rid of our coordinators. I want to have some recruiters because we can't be losing battles for 3-stars when we can only recruit from one state. I think Bryce is a perfect fit, especially since his pipeline is Louisiana. Don't get me wrong though, we worked well with what we currently have. At the moment, I think we have 13 3-stars signed. And now it is time to go through and check their dev traits, especially since I couldn't scout them. Well, it's safe to say most of it was rather disappointing, but we have 2 agile athletes. Both of them come in with star dev, and then the final guy, Frank Mallory, the guy that I wanted more than anybody else, has elite development. There's better football talent down here in Mississippi than what Coach Huff could have found in West Virginia, but we still have to hire another coordinator. And none of these guys really fit the mold of what I was hoping for, but this is the best that we can get in recruiting. Those hires should turn out to be pretty important for us. Looking at our quarterback season stats, I'm really just disappointed. But from a rushing perspective, I feel like JQ Gray should have gotten some more carries. He averaged almost 5 yards per carry, which isn't the worst in the world. We also had a couple good receivers. But there wasn't anything too crazy to see there, which is what I was expecting. There are going to be quite a few dudes though that are graduating from Southern Miss. That includes Dakota Thomas. He's the one that made that aggressive catch in the game that we played. I'm going to also try to get this kid to stay. But most likely, yeah, he wasn't being persuaded. Whenever you're this bad, though, that really doesn't shock me. It's about time that we see who is available to transfer from Mississippi, and nobody wants to come to our school. We're still going to have a lot of dudes that we can pour hours into, though. I just don't like that as I get farther down this board, the amount of 1-stars that are on here just so we can fill up some depth. I'll tell you right now, I don't even know where we're pulling these kids from. It's like from made-up cities. Yazoo City, Mississippi? Who lives there? There's no way they're coming from real places. When I look at the rest of the SEC rankings, we did have a better recruiting class than Mississippi State. That is just embarrassing from them. But I don't think outperforming the Bulldogs is going to help us too much because our team overall has been updated to 74 as we get some of these prospects in. It's a good thing that we found a couple agile athletes that both have star dev. They're going to be amazing for our defensive line. And even training results can't save this team. We've gone up to just a 76. Keep in mind that last year we were like a 79 or an 80. So that cannot be good news, but looking at our school grades, our team prestige went up to 1.5 stars. That's only because we're in the SEC. And we shouldn't have to look at team needs to know that pretty much every position needs an upgrade. Quarterback is the big one for me though, and this time the state has some prospects available. There's a 5-star, I doubt we're gonna get him. But there's also a lot of 3-stars that we can try and target as well. This is going to be good. Now, out of that batch of youngins, I've been able to find 3 quarterbacks. 2 of them are 3-star gyms. Their stats really aren't anything special. But then there's this bust. He's a 5-star. I don't care he busted. We're still going to pursue him anyway. And I think we have a real chance at landing Joshua Kerr because we can put 75 hours a week into him. How's that even possible though? Well, I've spent some of our coach points. We are able to scout at every position. It takes less time to scout, but what was more important was getting down to tier 3 for QBs. And then also we have coordinators that can recruit a little bit, and whenever it comes to our offensive coordinator, he also can increase the weekly recruiting hours for quarterbacks. That's the best move that we could make at this point in this rebuild. I'm not sure if we're going to get him or not, but it'd be super good if we could. We have other 3-star gyms we're also interested in. And then there's this 4-star receiver, 6'5", 96 jumping, only 91 speed, but I'd love to have him on the team. That's the rundown of the main players from Mississippi this year that we're targeting. There's about 5 players that could be huge building blocks for us. But until we make some good signings, we're stuck with guys like John White at quarterback. He is just a 70 overall. I know his skill caps actually don't hold him back too much, but I don't see him having a long future here. Most of our best receivers are graduating after this season, and that's why I'm redshirting some of the freshmen. That includes elite dev Frank Mallory. I'm not going to forget about him. He's only 5'8". He could still be a beast, but his quickness can't get any better. I think that's all that needs to be said though before we start simming. And how did we just win on the road against Arkansas? This makes 0 sense. Our team only got worse, but 3 interceptions from their quarterback will do that to you, while John White didn't have a good stat line at all. Maybe rushing was good offensively? Not really. I guess this result has come from a couple breakaway plays and some turnovers. But I don't trust this team to keep it up, so we're also going to play against FCS Northwest. I'm not going to let us fall to an FCS school. I would much rather start this season 2-0. But even that's not a guarantee. We find ourselves losing this one 14-0. They could have caught that. I mean, at the very least, they could have smacked it down, not allowed the completion. We're eventually going to score. But it took us until the fourth quarter to tie things up, and this is exactly why I wanted to hop into this matchup. I knew there was a very real chance that this roster lost to an FCS school, but we can prevent that from happening. On 3rd and goal, I just have to make sure that they don't throw it straight at me. They did. And our recovery time trying to get that ball is terrible. Is this guy going to celebrate, or is it only going to be his teammate? He thought he was so cool just staring at the camera. It's your first time playing on camera. You play for an FCS school. Let's not talk about that. I also know there's a lot of college players that watch the channel. I'm not disrespecting FCS schools. If I went out there and tried to play against one, it would not look pretty. Here's the moment though where I can prove that I'm clutch, because I threw up a 50-50 ball to a pick for no reason. And I've thrown another one. I've thrown another one. I have no excuses for that. That was just bad. Like, I'm watching this back, and I don't know why I refused to throw it away. I thought I could throw a bullet pass somehow around that defender. I have been trying to go for highlight plays with a team that is not any good. I played this game thinking we would win, and instead our defense made it, so this kid's probably going to get an instant transfer offer from Auburn. If I hadn't lost the blind glasses, they would be on right now, but I have to redeem myself against one of our rivals. The weather looks terrible for this game as well, though. I think we're playing in the rain again, but I don't care what overall our quarterback is. There will be no interceptions in this game. I'm gonna be smart about these reads, and we beat the press. We're up 14-0 early. I can kind of make out the SEC logo as well now that I take a closer look, but I should not have to zoom this far in to even tell that it's slightly there. Our defense was arguably the main issue though whenever we lost to the FCS school, and they've given up 13. But as long as we can stay ahead, we're going to be fine. We're going for it on the 4th and inches. Why not? And now on this next play, I think our slant's going to be open. That's a good read. See, I am capable of throwing the ball in the right spots. This game was far from a heat check, but more of just reassuring myself that when I super lock in, I can throw a lot of touchdowns. Though let's just say that's our quarterback's fault. It is not my fault that that was not a score. This is why we need to bring in somebody new. We had like 5 yards of separation, but he threw it behind him. And I know it was a red meter, but that's only because his accuracies are so low. With the 1 turnover though, it means our wide receiver wins player of the game instead. And I did the best that I could with John White, but I am ready for somebody else. At the very least, our season's been redeemed, and if we do sign David, this is a player I could actually throw the 50-50 balls up to. Again, 6'5", 96 jumping. I think it's going to make a lot of sense to put him on a visit for week 7 against Toledo. We can actually do the exact same thing for Joshua Kerr as well. But we have to get to that game first, and next up on our schedule is another rivalry on the road at 0-3 Tulane. We ended up losing this one by 7 points, which is a little bit disappointing. But we're only in season number 2, and we have signed both of the 3-star quarterback gyms. Now, I might have made a slight mistake. These guys probably would have committed if we put them on a visit in week 5 during our bye week, but I thought they would still be recruited by the time we got to week 7. And it would have been great if it worked out that way, but instead, I think after we sim against South Carolina, we're going to find out if we get the 5-star. Unfortunately, even though we are running away on 4-star David Kaiser, we weren't able to bring in Joshua Kerr, but we were so close. The truth is, his hard sells just didn't line up the way that they needed to. Our school grades were not good in the things he was interested in, but as you can see, we're having success with the 3-stars. I really wanted the 5-star quarterback bust. I think it could have made for some good stories, but we're going to have a quarterback competition between these two guys, and they're also going to have a 6'5", 4-star receiver to throw the ball to. We could be losing some players on defense though. A few of them might transfer at the end of the season, and I can't blame them for it. We're now sitting at 2-4 with things not looking to get any better since we have 4 straight games against top 16 opponents after Vanderbilt. I'm gonna go ahead, play my final game of the regular season against the Commodores since they're the lowest overall team left to face, and I believe if we can just get back to 3-9, that's enough to consider this a successful season. That takes winning one more game though, and at the moment it seems like Vanderbilt's about to tie it up, though they have floated it to the end zone. How did we not pick it? I'm sitting there clicking on spam and triangle. It just didn't make a difference at all. It's about to be 3rd and goal. And here we go. They're going through the air. It's a slant play. We can't stick with that though. That's on me. I thought one of our zones might drop back to cover that area. The best overall player on this team is our 86 overall running back. So JQ Gray should be getting some more involvement than he normally does, though they think it's a good idea to press, and it actually was. We simply don't have the speed to beat them deep at the moment. That is very worrisome, especially since instead of forcing it into an interception, I decided it was better off to just take the sack right there, and now they're going to have it at about midfield. I already know how this game's going to end. It's going to involve me choking away the lead that we had. There it is. They're in field goal range, and I think we can expect the run, so we will be run committing against Vanderbilt here. The problem is we only have 1 timeout left, so none of this really matters. If they decide to hand it off on 3rd down instead of pass, there's going to be like no time left, And actually, them getting in right here is best case scenario. I didn't mean to let it happen, but it worked in our favor. And this drive is either ending in two ways, an interception or a really impressive 52-second one down the field. We really need to go towards the sidelines more than anything else, though that should have been caught. And I missed just throwing it up to our big receiver on one side of the field. Now that I've figured out how to get it to work like 50% of my time, that's one of my favorite things to do. But I don't know what coverage they're in. How did they leave him open? We have been blessed. 20 seconds left on the clock now. Clutch comeback still potentially possible, though we need to be able to scramble for a good bit right here, and John White gets us in the red zone. This could be the clutch type of thing that we are looking for. Our running back could be open. Aggressive catch. Nope. He just got his back blown out by that DB. We're going for the 50-50 ball. We have the size advantage, and we catch it on his head. That is one of the most impressive things I've seen on this game. If this is on TikTok, this is live comm. And that's simply off me just reading comments and seeing that. I think we're gonna have our zig. You know, I just blew what would have been one of the best comebacks ever, going for the 2-point conversion. There's nothing we can do about it. The fans are shocked. I'm not. That's a read I'd make. And our last little bit of hope comes down to this kick, which they are going to recover. We just lost to Vanderbilt. Good job. You know, there were a lot of positives here in season number 2 in the games we played, but there were also a lot of negatives. And since we didn't come out on top, this catch is not as satisfying, but look at that. I mean, it's still pretty cool. A lot of the pure joy and excitement, though, has just been wiped off of my face. These are the final 3 stars I will be targeting from Mississippi, and I'm just going to sim straight to the end of the season. We're literally playing against 4 straight ranked opponents. We're not going to beat them. My prediction on that was correct. We finished the season on a 9-game losing streak. We went 2-10. And this is exactly what I thought would happen throwing Southern Miss in the SEC. We beat Arkansas, though, having the tiebreaker over them, so they're the team that technically finished at the bottom of the conference. They're just straight poverty. And like I said we would, we've picked up all the other 3 stars that we were putting hours into. Nebraska fans aren't going to like this, but I was very confused when it popped up that Dylan Raiola won the Heisman at Georgia. And he almost led them to a national championship, but they lost to NC State by 3 points. For our little season stats recap, John White wasn't injured at least, but he did throw 17 interceptions. And we need to get some more jet sweeps to Davis Dalton. The senior had 27 yards per carry, only 4 attempts, of course. That's probably off of 1 huge run, but that stood out to me. And then he was also our leading receiver. The top 4 in that category all ended up graduating. We are also losing 3 players to the transfer portal. They were in there the entire time, but sometimes those guys don't actually leave the team, and there's only a limited amount of transfers that are even considering our school. None of them are from Mississippi. With that in mind, I've increased the players from Mississippi that we're going to target. They're not the best, but it would at least help out our depth. And if they decide not to come here, they're the ones missing out, because nobody else is giving those 1 stars a chance. I do think it's a little bit disgusting that Mississippi State had to step in and take a couple away. But the real question is whose class is rated lower this year, and it's Mississippi State's once again. Vanderbilt is down at 115. We should not be out recruiting the Commodores when we can only go from 1 state. And you might be wondering, are there any dev traits that stood out to you? Look at these 1-star prospects. On this middle linebacker, star dev, 1-star prospect. That is super rare. But then I scrolled up and we got it again on another 1-star. They got better dev traits than most of the rest of this class, but I will say at the top it's very top heavy, and it's about to look super good as we start with our free safety getting star. Jason Robinson, the wide receiver, star dev. Lamar Lenhard, the quarterback, star dev, and then David Kaiser has elite. We have 2 receivers with elite development. If any position group on this team is moving in the right direction, it's got to be the receiving room. But I am a little bit disappointed to find out that Lamar Lenhard is going to be just a 66 overall quarterback. That is not great for a freshman. Depending on how these training results look, he's probably not going to start for us this next season. It looks like we have an 80 overall in John White. And there are some select parts of this roster that actually look pretty good, but the players are either juniors or seniors. They're going to leave soon, so we just have to keep on recruiting well. We have 41 freshmen compared to some of these other classes. And from the state of Mississippi, this time around, there is only a few 4 stars, and we can go after a couple of them, but I'm not seeing some super exciting prospect. In fact, looking at our board at the moment, there's only 4 and 3 stars on here, and that's only 16 targets for us to get. So I'm pretty disappointed to say that a lot of them turned out to be bust, and that means I don't want to go after them. We might not have a choice though. There's only so many prospects at the top of our board that actually look pretty good. And none of the gyms are my favorite player. It's actually going to be Sammy Hayden. If he comes in with a good dev trait, those quarterback stats are pretty good. I'm always thinking about that position, how we can improve it. We have an opportunity to get revenge against FCS Northwest on our schedule this year. And I might as well take the opportunity to redshirt any freshmen that aren't going to see the field this year, including Lamar Leonhard. I truly don't think he's even going to be that good for us ever because his accuracy skill caps are just abysmal. So we'll see what happens with that, and I think we have no choice but to play against Tulane. Getting 4 rivalry wins is crucial for down the road if we ever want to go down the architect coach tree. And this team might be 5 overalls lower, but we're performing pretty well off the rip. We just got to start with a touchdown right here, which we are going to get, and that is the only time that we have been able to score in this matchup, but we are threatening to do it again here in the 4th quarter. We don't need much more. We just got to get some decent blocks right here. And the vision from JQ Gray was pretty impressive there. With 1.5 minutes left, we would also be the team that has the ball, so we have a decent chance of winning. Of course, when we make a good read, have a good pass, there's going to be holding. And putting us on our 6-yard line is not exactly ideal, but I wanted to throw it up to the 6'5" receiver. I think it is very understandable why jump balls have become my favorite thing to do on this game. I got the freshman for a reason. Right here, again, we should be able to get it. It is either an interception though, or one of the better catches you can make on this game. I think we're in field goal range with this. And we are going to take down Tulane simply because we had an incredible receiver to throw it to. There is nothing better than just running down the clock, settling for 3. Because you know it's over, they know it's over, and all we have to do is just put this kick straight through the uprights, which is done. I'm really liking the team that's coming together with Southern Miss. But here's the thing, I'm not sure if we're going to win whenever we sim against Louisiana Monroe. Just thinking about it, I probably should have hopped into this game and then sim the one against the FCS school. But I wanted to make sure we got our revenge, so that is what we're going for. Having beef with an FCS school as an SEC school really sums up the state of where Southern Miss is at the moment. But I'd like to think that maybe they're like a Montana, a North Dakota State. And those FCS schools are pretty talented. They normally just don't move up because it doesn't make financial sense. We're going for some big catches in this. And you might not think that it's worked out for us so far, but it's the only way we've gotten points. Our success so far in this game, though, has really just come down to what we've done on defense. And I think the longer that this goes on for, the more that they're starting to realize they're simply not going to come back against us. Making it 21-0 would lock that up for sure. Using the speed option, JQ Gray walks it in. And this makes me feel a lot better after what happened last season. We're in year 3 though, and I'm feeling good about beating an FCS school. So maybe we should start to focus on some of the competition in our actual conference, and I think we're going to play against Mississippi State. I'm going to make sure that we schedule both these 4-stars for a visit with that game. I think it's one that we could actually come out on top of. Before them though, we have to play against South Carolina and then Alabama, which I'm assuming aren't going to go well, but I don't care. We got the 4-star from Mississippi to commit before he even came on a visit. That is a massive signing for us. I'm actually surprised that Ole Miss wasn't just able to take him away, but I think they're going to do that on Elijah Wells. They already did it on 3-star right end Glenn Rush, but we signed Sammy Hayden again. This is the quarterback that I think could actually be big for us. I've had no choice though but to cut down the players that we're pursuing as 3-stars from Mississippi. I think we're going to have to dip into the 2-stars, but maybe not. It's kind of all dependent on this game and who commits after we hopefully take down Mississippi State. The stakes are high for this one, but you can see that the stands are not very full. So we have got to make more people want to come out to our games, and it's going to be a 4th and 3. I really don't want to hand this one off, but passing the ball has not worked in this game, so that's what we've done. It gets us a touchdown. But by the time there's 2.5 minutes left, we find ourselves down by 6. We had a direct snap on 4th and 1. And right now, all that's on my mind is figuring out how we're going to clutch up against Mississippi State. I think we'll be able to do so, but we'll see. I trust in my abilities here. Corner route should be getting open. That pass is off target. And that is exactly why you need a quarterback that has some good throwing accuracies again. If it gets open for a 3rd time around and he still doesn't hit this pass, I'd be so upset. But we didn't even have a chance to get off that ball. They're bringing in pressure and it was too quick. All we can do is just hope that run committing is going to get us the ball back. And here we go. On 2nd and 11, they use a jet touch pass. We're out there, but we weren't able to bring him down. That's the game right there. They keep on using these motions and we just don't know what to do about it. We are going to fall short against Mississippi State, and that's going to cost us at least 1 or 2 commitments. All of a sudden, Ole Miss has a lead on Elijah Wells. We are not going to fall behind on Cantrell though, and I've seen enough out of this team once again. We're simming to the end of the year. My prediction is we're going to finish 3-9, but even better, we were able to go 4-8. We beat Vanderbilt on the road by 2 points, 48-46. That is a shootout. We gave up 64 points to Texas A&M, and then I don't know how we have done it, but we have beaten Texas in sim once again. Of course, there were a couple prospects that we didn't get. Elijah Wells went to Ole Miss, and then this bust corner Eric Sams went to South Alabama, but it's it's not a big loss. I have to remind myself that we're only losing 12 seniors, so we don't need a massive class. But then I thought back to last year where we were able to get a couple guys that were one-star prospects with star devs, so those guys are probably still in here. I'll sign a couple every year just to see if we can get lucky. And I could make a change whenever it comes to our coordinators, especially since they're not progressing much in recruiting. I might regret this, but Frederick Hawkinson's gonna have to go. We don't need a motivator. And it seems like Tennessee won the SEC championship while we have finished at the bottom of the conference. That's disappointing to see, but John White as a senior could be massive for us. He only threw 7 interceptions this year. His stats continue to get better, even on the ground. And you know what the difference maker probably is? He has multiple targets he can trust, like Frank Mallory that's a freshman, and also David Kaiser. Now it's time to see the dev traits of the new players. The 4-star is going to be normal, so that is pretty disappointing to see right there. We have star on Quincy Lord though, and I think that's going to be the best we get. I've also looked through all the coaches that are available at the moment, and every single one of them has this exact same build. I don't want them. The grass is not always greener on the other side. I'm not even going to hire somebody. I'm going to see who the computer selects for us. And they selected Brad Giggs. He is going to be a motivator, but he does have a little bit in recruiting. When it comes to the national champion, this year it was Michigan. And we have important seniors like JQ Gray that are graduating. I'm not sure what our team's going to look like next year without a lot of these guys. It might be okay still, but the transfer portal is pretty much useless to us. And I really feel like in college football 26, you have got to be able to open up some of these guys that are unlocked. In this new era of college football, every team loses like at least 10 players a season. We should be able to go after a lot more. I just don't know why it's so limited. So many guys are locked away. And it means that our recruiting class is going to be terrible, finishing below Mississippi State for the first time at 111. I really like the additional challenge in this video though of only recruiting from Mississippi. I feel like it's going to draw out the rebuild, make it a lot more realistic. And I don't think I've mentioned it, but every time you exit recruiting now after the last title update, there's this menu screen that says, do you want to actually exit? And you have to confirm. That has been a nice little addition. I cannot tell you how many times I've accidentally backed out of recruiting when filming. Sammy Hayden, the quarterback, becomes a 70. And Tyrone was also supposed to go over to that position, but we're going to make him a running back instead. With player progression right around the corner, we're going to find out that we have an 88 overall. John White, our QB, is an 86 as a senior. And Lamar Leonhardt is actually progressing worse than every other person that we have in this room. We've also caught a break with our non-conference schedule. I'm not worried about any teams on it until we get to SEC play, of course. But I wanted to sign Sean so bad. We just have the deal breaker of championship contenders, so we can't even go after the 5-star from Mississippi. There are no other quarterback options besides 2 stars that even want to give us a chance either. And I'd love to say that no matter what after this season, we'll ride with Sammy Hayden, but his skill caps are terrible. He's pretty much already reached his max potential. I'm really not liking how the future of this team looks at the moment, but I've decided we're going after more 4-stars than ever. We're going to try to get at least 5 of them. And that's because no matter what their dev trait is, they normally have a much higher ceiling. Bowling Green's an 86 overall. This is a terrible way to start the year. I thought we'd be able to comfortably sim through all 4 of these non-conference games, but we only beat the FCS school in Louisiana Monroe. So that's a little bit disappointing, but I want to try and upset number 6 Auburn. I think that would make for a great win. They're only an 87 overall. Maybe they're a bit overrated. But it turns out they were actually just this good. We've only been able to put up 3 points versus the Tigers. I mean, this throw is fantastic. I think we're about to get a touchdown with Jason Robinson, but we have not been able to do that throughout this entire game. You also might have noticed that John White's not out there on the field. In his senior year, it was supposed to be his best one. He has fractured his foot. And on that same injury report was our highest overall player, our defensive tackle, so there's just a bunch of disappointing stuff going on with this team. I really don't have that much hope, especially if they're gonna lock us up. So if this 4th and 1 does not go the way that we need it to, there's just no way that we're gonna be able to come back. It's not fair though. We just threw a freshman out there for his first game against a top 6 team. And if our senior quarterback's gonna be injured for like the next 4 to 5 weeks, there's almost no purpose to playing these games. I think we're just gonna keep on losing like we did on this 4-star linebacker, though we did pick up the 2 3-star gyms, and we also have a decent chance at getting these 3 4-stars. I should also point out that David Root is a lock for us. He's not gonna play receiving back though. Whenever I looked at his stats originally, I think he's more of a linebacker. I've made that guess based off of his speed and acceleration alone. I'm just glad that we're able to bring in 4 stars. But now we have to worry about on-field results again. You might notice that Alan Menken, our quarterback, is redshirted. He should be out there. But there was just a part of me that thought the 1-star could start for us next season, especially if his quickness goes up a bit. There's nobody great at the quarterback position on this team at the moment. Everybody's capped off on their accuracies, even the young players. And the redshirting for this pretty much wasted season is going to continue with guys like David Kaiser because he's the 5th best receiver overall wise. It's crazy that all it took took was our best 2 players getting injured, and I've already given up on the season. But maybe I'll change my mind if we can get lucky and pull off an upset. Well, we beat Arkansas 34-31. This is the second time they've lost to Southern Miss. And after we advance past this Florida game, things are about to get super interesting, because we're going to find out whether or not we can get these 4 stars over Ole Miss. They're both coming down to the wire. I've waited a long time to start spending some of our coach points that we've saved up, but I think we have to start getting tier 2. It gives a recruiting action bonuses. And that one decision has made sure that we at least got the right tackle, but the wide receiver's going to choose Ole Miss. He's going to go to the bottom of our board, where I'm just going to stack up all the players that we're losing to other schools. And I have to admit that firing our defensive coordinator last year for this guy was the biggest mistake I could have made. He has 0 recruiting bonuses, but we keep on getting lucky, because even though we got blown out by Florida 52-0, we beat Tennessee. That's a top 25 win, and it's with Ian at quarterback still. John White should be playing now. He's no longer on the injury report. And if we can, we're going to use him in this game against Ole Miss, who's an in-state opponent. I can't really say he's been a difference maker against Ole Miss, though. After we couldn't get that ball out quick enough, we are fighting for it back on this 3rd and 6. That could have been a fumble. And you can see the situation that we're in. We're struggling against them. We've only scored 6 points. It's really frustrating that we just haven't been able to move the ball at all. Stepping up, we're going to have to scramble. I didn't see anybody open for a first. It's really crazy that we could win this game with a field goal after how bad we've played, but we could. There was some PI going on right there, and I still threw it. We got to start thinking about this Southern Miss team as a team that could make it to a bowl game. Rolling out, I'm going to throw it straight to the Rebels defender, and I'm not even going to get upset about it. It was just one of the worst reads I've had in a while. We deserve to lose this game. We don't deserve to win only scoring 6 points. And I'm playing way too carefree for a team that has making a bowl game on the line. How did he just slip through that hole? I can't believe they were able to pick that up right there. All we can do is just keep on sending everybody. And here we go. It is 3rd and 10. They're actually throwing it. They have decided to go straight at our DB, which would have been great if we got the interception, but even with this, we're only trailing by 4. Now, a touchdown is what it's going to take to beat them, but we just don't seem to have players that can get open against Ole Miss. That is the type of throw that you don't want to have to lean on. I'm hoping that we beat the press. We've not done it all game, and we got it knocked out. This is what I'm talking about whenever it comes to those offensive struggles. We should have had something. This is what I'm talking about whenever I mention offensive struggles. We should have been able to bring that in, but now we're going to scramble, run out of bounds. With 35 seconds left on the clock, they're running man-to-man. I'm hoping that our corner route can get us out of bounds again. But there is no hope. It is simply just sending up prayers, hoping for the best, and they've been able to catch up again. We have got to get at least a first down out of everything, because the clock is going to stop for a short period. And there we go. 20 seconds left now. The blocking actually lining up super well right here. And this is how you clutch up. Ignore the interception now. That is how you do it. That feels so good, because now you can't flame me in the comments for the terrible read that I made a couple minutes ago. There's nothing you can say. We're about to beat Ole Miss. We have a chance at being bowl eligible this season. This needs to be the final play of the game. I'm going to let them break that tackle easily. Southern Miss in the SEC is starting to find a little bit of success. And enough of these players have committed by now that I can show you Mississippi State is taking a lot of players that I've actually put points into and wanted to get. There's been nothing more annoying than them in recruiting. I found a 2-star Jim at corner, but he only has 87 speed. But even with most of the struggles that we've had, I think it's going to be our highest rated class. Now, looking at our final 3 games, if we're going to become bowl eligible, it's going to come at home against Vanderbilt. And what I was not expecting to see was we could technically make it to the SEC championship if everybody else with 2 losses lost 1 more game. I can tell you right now, that is not happening. I highly doubt that we win out, but I think we can take down the Commodores. This is it. All the work that we have done to rebuild them comes down to this. And it's just as low scoring as the matchup against Ole Miss was. On 4th and 2, we pick it up. But I can tell you right now, with the current offense we're working with, there is no reason we should reach the marker of being bowl eligible, though we have a touchdown. Frank Mallory's starting to shine for us, but it's also completely opened up this game right here. And if they hand that ball off, we're probably not going to be able to stop them. I have a quarterback spy out there, though. They had to throw it away. I've been preparing for the pass, stuck on a defensive tackle on a huge 3rd and goal. And we almost had them right there. Now they're passing it again, and this time there's no way that we let this work out for them. Come on, they've run the same play 3 of the 4 plays. They've been giving us stick over and over. It never worked for them. Now we're trying to run the ball while getting a field goal. And I cannot stand using slow running backs. Why is he also in for this crucial 3rd and 7? We've got to pick it it up. All we have to do is work it a little bit farther down the field. We'll be in field goal range. We'll make sure that we are a bowl eligible team. But I can see one route right now that I really want to try and throw. It's over the cover 2 and it's swatted. Based off where the safeties were at, I thought that's the look that we were going to get. It ended up not being, though. This could be an amazing pass. And I know the refs are surprised Southern Miss did something good, but that's a catch. I don't understand why they even needed to review that right there. We're trying to pick up a first down on the ground. We're going to come close. And that would allow us to run out the rest of the clock before kicking the game winner. All we're going to do is take a quarterback kneel and then we'll go out, kick a field goal. And I was a little scared that we might run out the rest of the clock, but we're going to have enough time to hit this and that's it. We have taken down the Commodores. We are bowl eligible in like season number 4 or 5. And I just realized it's year number 4 because John White's been with us the entire time. I think it's going to be a long grind for us to get to that actual playoff caliber level. But we needed to make a little bit of progress or else these school grades are going to continue to be down and that just makes recruiting hard. Like I said, if we can somehow win out and get lucky, making the SEC championship, that'd be crazy. But knowing our next 2 matchups, I don't think that's going to happen. We have fallen to Texas A&M 46-17. Our final game of the season is going to be at Texas. And this is a school that we've beaten multiple times in sim, but they're a 91 overall this year. I can't say I'm surprised that we lost, but I thought it'd be a little bit closer. And we went all the way from like 4th in the SEC to finishing 13th. I want to make it very clear though, I'll be firing our defensive coordinator until I get a better recruiter in here. And it's taken me way too long to find somebody like this, but there it is. Derek McQuarters is exactly what we need. He had an offer from Penn State as well, but he decided he wanted to coach in Mississippi. And it just hit me that we don't have a bowl game and we're in week 2 of the bowl weeks. Due to where we finished in the SEC, we were bowl eligible, but we didn't actually get a bowl game to play in. And that is disappointing to say the least. We also have to say goodbye to John White. He is leaving this program as a senior. He did not do as much for us this season. But there's been a new breakout wide receiver, and that is freshman Jason Robinson. One thing I've started to pick up on though is the SEC's not getting that much representation in the playoffs. We only put in 2 teams this year. And that's not good news for Southern Miss, since if we ever even want to get there, it's going to be a bloodbath. Jalen Washington was a senior as an 86 overall running back, and I completely overlooked him. We had more talent on this team than ever before, and we still didn't put anybody into the NFL. And then the transfer portal continues to be pointless. I can tell I'm starting to get frustrated by this stuff. I mean, Mississippi State's taking even 2-star prospects. But that's just how it ends up working out. We're about to see what our recruiting class rank was. It was at 44, and there's 3 schools in the SEC below us. We did most of it at the beginning of the season, getting a lot of the top guys, but near the end of it, I did fill it up with a bunch of 2 and 1 stars as well. And the dev traits on some of these players could have definitely been better, but there's going to be a star mixed in there, which is what I'm happy about. My prediction mid-season for David Root was he was going to play linebacker for us. It turns out he can actually go there, so that's where we're going to put him. And I know I got desperate to get some freshman corners, but these guys are really bad. I don't even know who we're going to start at quarterback this season. We're just an 80 overall. It looks like our best options are either Sammy Hayden or Alan Menken. But what we have been waiting for is this wide receiver room to improve, and we have some good players for the next few seasons. After all that time with Alan Menken though, I'm actually going to force him to leave because I want to put Sammy out there. And there is only one situation where having this kid as our starting quarterback for the next 4 years makes any sense. It's going to involve us unlocking this architect tree, and if we're going to do that, we're going to have to win 2 more rivalry games. So I made sure that I put them on the schedule, but winning those games is going to be a completely different thing. Then when it comes to recruiting, we only have 7 seniors, so we don't have that many players to replace. But we will be getting as many good players from the state of Mississippi as we can this year. There's a 5-star running back for us to go after, and I just need other quarterback options like Durham. This kid has us as his #1 school. He could be the future of the program, but he's a bust. Then we're going to find a gym right after that. I mean, we're going to have some options. I think I'm still going to have to go after the 4-star. But that was a major letdown, so maybe the 5-star running back can at least be good. 91 speed, 87 truck, and we're going to try our best to get Alexander Fowler. In order to do so, I've gotten up to always be recruiting tier 3 for running backs. And as you can see right here, we have 80 hours a week going into him. We also have some points on some of these other 4 and 3 stars. But the only way I think it's worth it for us to go after 3 stars instead of 4 stars is if they're a gym, so that's why we're going after these kids. Coming off of a 6-6 season, I'm hoping that we can at least do that again. But my thought process is after beating FCS East, we might take a step back playing at number 16 Tulane. Remember, we need to win 2 rivalry games, so we're definitely hopping into this. But I can tell that we are set up to struggle in this one, so we're going to have to play well. Well, we've only been able to put up 3 points against the Green Wave. This is terrible. But they have also only been able to score 3, and that might have been a super clutch tackle because they have punted it back to us, giving us a chance to actually beat them. I'm not feeling great about freshman quarterback Sammy Hayden, but if he can deliver a good throw right here, it's going to help us. And this is basically the best that he is ever going to get in his career because he's already maxed out his stats, except they've been able to get over to that throw right there. They're picking us off, and if they take this back for a pick six, we're in trouble. This is my first game of the day, and I'm already struggling making bad reads. But there has to be at least a little bit of hope that we can still come back because he can also run. He can't just throw. There's a very specific style of play that I normally like out of my quarterbacks, and he fits the mold, but now it's 3rd and 20. That was a terrible sack to take, and we're just going to have to possession catch it. I will say this right now. We are going for the 2-point conversion. If we get into the end zone, I think we're going to have this over on the sideline. But after reviewing it, the refs are saying that this was not a catch. I don't want to make too big of a deal out of it, but you can tell that his foot probably hit the ground about right here, and then the toe touched the sideline. So it's a little bit of a controversial call, but we have to continue to get down the field either way. We shouldn't be in this spot in the first place. There is no excuses to only have scored 3 points. And here we go. It's now 4th and 7. I'm gonna hit the halfback angle route, and we're gonna get just enough. The underneath routes are ones that have been open, but we have to get bigger gains like this right here. I'm hoping that we can get out of bounds. Here we go. 18 seconds left in this one now. I'm going to step up, I'm going to run, and Sammy Hayden is going to get in. I did think it would be best, though, if instead of the 2-point conversion, we kick the extra point. And my entire reasoning for that is with our defense, I trust them to get a stop. On 2nd down, they would get a good bit of it back, but they're running it on 3rd and 10. And I don't know why Tulane did that. It's like they want us to win. This is exactly why we ended up settling for overtime, though. That could be a touchdown on the first play. And Frank Mallory found the open space in the cover, too. That's the start to the season that we were looking for. And I still don't trust us to also take down Louisiana Tech, so we're going to play this one as well, and I guess we'll see what happens. I can tell you right now, it's definitely been a higher scoring game against them, but we have got to be able to get them off the field one final time on this 3rd down. I'm not sure why our zone left that player. I would love if we could have some easier wins in this rebuild. I'm not for all of these matchups being so close, and the longer that this goes on for, the worse it's looking for us as they're about to be down to like the 10-yard line. If they score a touchdown, this game is over. We're going to have like 0 time to respond back. We have got to be able to force them to throw it away. And that's exactly what I was hoping for right there. Why did they just hand it off, and why is it working? It is now 3rd and goal. They're going to waste it spiking the ball. And there's no way that they run this as well. I have never seen the computer run in this type of situation. We have our pass defense out there on the field, and we didn't get over there in time. I hesitated. I'm not sure why I hesitated getting to that ball. But this play from Franks, thinking that Hitch could ever get it right there, is going to cost us the game. Watching that back was very painful. I mean, we can try and just send up a prayer, hoping for the best. It's a 50-50 chance of us getting it. And that was the rivalry that we needed to win, but we fell short. There is a little bit of positive news as we have signed the 3-star quarterback Jim. But Jason Robinson played super well, and our undefeated season's still going away. From this point forward, our schedule's just going to be pretty difficult. But what I've done for these 4 players is I've made sure that they're all going to be scheduled for a visit against Syracuse. They get a boost positively from each player, and theoretically they should commit beforehand like Alexander Fowler has done. We have signed our first 5-star at Southern Miss. We've also picked up Tyquan Durham. This could still be the best quarterback we have. And I couldn't tell you what has gone on during sim, but we have won 2 road matchups back-to-back against ranked schools. I don't know how. This team is not that good. It is just an 80 overall. I think we should also be able to beat Arkansas at home in sim. And I have spent 5 points just to get Always Be Cruton tier 3 for offensive linemen. Being able to use 70 points for each one of these battles is going to help us out dramatically. We've also been able to put some more 4-stars from Mississippi on our board that we can put points into. And I can't explain how good it feels to finally be getting some of these 4-stars. We are going to lose by 5 points against Arkansas, but they're 5-1. I'm not too upset about it. And I kind of figured as we sim through more of the season, we're just going to continue to fall down the SEC standings. Just looking at our schedule a few weeks later, though, I think we're better off simming. That's how we went into Neyland Stadium, doubled Tennessee's score against them. And now we're just 1 game away from being bowl eligible for the 2nd year in a row. We also need to be higher up on the SEC standings, though, so we actually get picked for a bowl. And that's why I've decided to play this one against 1-7 South Carolina. But before we finish the rest of this rebuild, a word from Prize Picks, today's video sponsor. We are so close to the first 12-team college football playoff ever, and to add to the fun, I'm going to be on Prize Picks. If you think you know sports, this is a a great chance to predict player performances, choosing higher or lower on their projections. And I know that I'm going to be riding with SMU's quarterback the same way that I have all season. Prize Picks also just came out with up to 1,000x entries, so you can test your luck by using 6 demon picks. And they're available now in more states than ever before too. I can get you a good little head start on there, as Codeboard will get you $50 instantly whenever you play with your first $5 plus lineup. And now it's time to resume the rest of this rebuild. With a minute 18 seconds left, we have a lead against South Carolina, so that's kind of what I was hoping for, but it's not over. They have the ball right now, and if they're able to score a touchdown, they would beat us, so we'd lose the same way we did to Louisiana Tech. I really wish I could say that the offense was more exciting this year. I definitely thought it would be, but it's been our defense that's been the main unit. And I have got to get some faster defensive linemen out there. They are not quick. The best way to do that is recruit athletes, move them over to outside linebacker for a few years, so that's what we'll be doing in the future. And here we go. 4th and 8, 25 seconds left. Bowl game on the line. They should not have tested us there, and they just went with the check down. It's weird, but even though I've not been a fan of Sammy Hayden, he's been able to make sure that as a freshman, this team is bowl eligible, and we could even win 7 or 8 games. I feel like these 4 stars have a real reason to commit to Southern Miss. And we're getting pretty much every single player that we want. We just got a right tackle as a 4-star as well, but this tight end could be a closer call. Well, I think Terrence Burke has made the right decision. And this is a very winnable game on the road against Vanderbilt. I think our luck ran out against them though. The same thing could be said for the game against Texas A&M. And they were close, but they were losses, so we have finished 11th in the SEC. This is actually very concerning. I'm not sure if this is going to be enough for us to make a bowl game. I think we're a little bit too far down. And we've basically just finished out the rest of the season, signing some more 3 stars. If nothing pops up after this Heisman Trophy, we're going to miss out on a bowl game again. It's a bye week. And that's really sad. We deserve better with these guys, but at least we've been able to make 18 signings by early National Signing Day. One of those has elite development. It's the 4-star right tackle. And then we got star dev on the 5-star running back. We got star dev on this right tackle. Of course, because Tyquan Durham is a bust, he is just going to be normal dev. But I still think that'll be better than what Andre has, and that's impact. Just seeing how Sammy Hayden perform when he's not injured, it's more about the skill caps than the actual dev trait, though I will say Brian actually did better. And that makes me wonder if when he's a senior, we should start him next season. We're going to have a tough decision to make. Looking through the rest of the season stats though, our receiving leaders, Jason Robinson, David Kaiser, and down there at number 3, Frank Mallory, the kid with elite dev. That could change this next season though. As you can see, we are only losing a few players that made any bit of impact. So my expectation is we should be pretty good, and there's also some transfers from Mississippi that we can finally go after. What's funny about transfers from Mississippi moving forward is we've probably recruited all these guys before. Like I remember trying to get O'Kine last season, but he went to South Alabama. And then this time around, he made the right decision, but we are still losing some 2-stars even. This kid went to Louisiana over us. There's never a guarantee that we're going to sign a kid no matter what his star rating is, and as you can see, we have the 25th best class, but this is the 11th best class in our conference. That's not what I wanted to see. This is probably the best that we're going to do for quite a while. It's a fluke year. It's the best we've had, and it's still nowhere near good enough to compete with some of the other schools. That's why we need to start developing stuff like faster outside linebackers and defensive linemen. This kid is going to become a 70 overall there. And it's safe to say that we're still consistently getting better. We're up to an 84 overall. I think it should be a little bit higher looking at some of these players' overalls. But now we have a decision to make, and it's which one of these quarterbacks we want to actually start. That's going to be a tough decision, and with a roster size of 104, I've got to start cutting players we're not planning on using. I was not expecting to say this when we signed him, but Lamar Leonhard is never going to see the field for us. And even after making a bunch of changes, our overall is still only an 84, but our conference schedule doesn't look too bad this season actually, and we even have Louisiana Tech on here. Now I made a huge mistake. I accidentally skipped over the preseason scouting period, so we're not going to be able to scout most of the players we go after for a while. But there's a couple of them it's probably worth it to find out what they are anyway, just in case we can find some gems. I think we're very fortunate that it seems like we should still be in the running for all 7 of these 4 stars. That's the only players that we're putting hours on. And from here on out, we're definitely going for more quality than quantity since our freshman class has almost 40 people in it. I'm also trying to keep in mind that our red shirts could be pretty useful to us. I think we should even use it on Alexander Fowler since he is our 3rd highest overall running back. And I might even want to put it on Tyquan Durham only because his skill caps with accuracies are actually really good. He can go up really far in those categories. So he's going to be at Southern Miss for 5 years, and it's about time to see how we do against Louisiana Tech. We only have to beat a rival one more time in this entire rebuild to unlock the architect tree. And I think it's kind of crazy. One of our fans had a beanie on in August in Mississippi. Surely it's super hot out there. But I guess it could be for the rain. Here on a 3rd and 7, I'm going to have to playmaker so we can throw an interceptions straight to him. That's a great way to open it up. And I'm glad to be so positive about how terrible I am. With how good this team is versus Louisiana Tech, we were never going to lose this game unless I threw like 5 of those. But I haven't been able to play as carefree as I want to. I mean, we have guys that are 6'5" at receiver that I just want to throw aggressive balls in their direction. I mean, that's how it works sometimes. We can get it. And I've missed force feeding it to Kaiser. After getting the interception out of my system, the more fun that I had, the better. And this is the 4th rivalry win that we were searching for. We have 39 series wins. But more importantly, with a loose offense, we actually threw for a ton of touchdowns. If we want to keep Sammy Hayden in there at quarterback, now all we have to do is unlock the architect tree by spending 15 more in motivator and tactician. So we'll start with tactician. What I want to do is upgrade our offensive line so it plays as good as possible at all times. We have not been leveling up fast in this rebuild though. We're only at level 13, which is why I'm kind of surprised that we have such a good lead on all these 4-stars. And this is another game that I should probably play since it's on the road at a top 25 team, plus it's winnable. I feel like we really haven't gotten that much action in this rebuild though with Southern Miss in the SEC. And that's because we've been so focused on winning some of these non-conference games like this. I don't like how many are coming down to our defense though. I feel like I have a lot more control on offense. So I'm just hoping that we can hold on for 2 more plays. It's 3rd and 8, but I did leave that hitch route open. After spiking the ball though, they had to waste it down. That should have been my user though. We still knocked it loose. And I feel like we got super lucky on that play right there. They have nowhere to go. 4th and 10. I've even put a quarterback spy out there just in case he tries to run, but they have not done it. And instead, they stepped out of bounds too soon, so we held on to our lead at the end. Like I said, that's what a lot of these games recently have been about. But that's a little bit strange to me because I feel like this is the best that our wide receiver core is ever going to be. We should be scoring even more points, and we'll see what ends up happening whenever we sim. I think we're going to come out on top because we've already signed a 4-star. And look at that. Sammy Hayden threw for almost 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. Not only did we beat the Bulldogs by 15 points, but the next week we beat FCS Northwest 58-3. So there's a very good chance we start the season 5-0 because we're about to play at Wyoming. Looking past just that though, the 4-star signings continue to come in. Dion Walters, the quarterback, is going to give us a chance. And then with these remaining 3 4-stars, I have them all coming on a visit in week 6 during our bye week, so I'm hoping they can commit then. It's still hard to tell if we're going to get every single one of them, but at least we're playing pretty well defensively, and this kid started off as an athlete that we moved over to linebacker. That's why I said earlier on, you want to recruit the athletes that are halfbacks, move them to linebacker. They're normally pretty fast. We beat Wyoming 42-14. And whether or not we get these 2 players all comes down to their visit at Southern Miss. We've impressed Antoine Downs, and we've also impressed Isaiah Gums. So even though I didn't put these players on our board until week 1, we still signed every 4-star we targeted. I think it's kind of funny that I don't know how good any of them are though, because I could be getting excited about a bunch of guys that we end up not wanting that much. Now we're going on the road to 1-4 Arkansas. That game is a real test for this team. We'll see if we ended up winning. And it turns out we did 37-12. We have so much momentum at the moment. I'm glad I hopped into the 2 games that I did at the beginning of the year. And I think the last one I'll play has to be at Texas. This is the easiest schedule we have had in a long time. We got super lucky with the draw. But looking at those standings, if we can just keep this up, we're going to find our way to the SEC championship. It has been an amazing season on the field, and it's also going to be a pretty good season in recruiting. As you can see, we're set up to sign another like 11 3-stars. But there was a problem in our way, and that was Tennessee. They were ranked. They came to our stadium. Somehow we still beat them, especially after beating Auburn. I mean, this entire season's going great. And I truly don't understand how we're currently sitting at number 18 in the country. We're undefeated. I'm pretty positive if we take down Texas, we're going to be in the SEC championship. But we also need to be realistic. We're going on the road at a 90 overall team. This first half has gone exactly how I thought it would. We're going to get a sack right here. But after taking a timeout, they're going to settle for 3. 24-7. It's like we're being exposed. There's even a flag. And I'm not sure why we hit their kicker late, but they should decline the penalty. All it's taken to beat us is finding a team that has good enough defensive backs to keep up with our receivers. And we're not going to get any moss catches in this at all. We've got to step up and run for a lot of our first downs. I can try to run the ball a little bit too, and sometimes the blocks actually work out pretty well. But LaMichael Brooks is currently averaging 2 yards per carry, so that kind of tells the full story of that. This has honestly been the best drive of this game so far. I think we're going to be able to run it in right here with Hayden. But coming back against Texas has been super challenging. Here on a 4th and 6, I should have made a read. I'm proud of the fight that we've put up, but I think it's pretty clear that the Longhorns are just the better team. And this is one of those games where my comeback efforts couldn't actually save us. Their quarterback, Celesi Mafi, threw for almost 500 yards. But I love playing in the SEC so much. It was a quality loss on the road, so we actually moved up 3 spots in the polls just by losing. We're also still in the running for the SEC championship. Texas would have the tiebreaker if they won one more game though. And I'm really hoping that we can somehow still win these final 3 games during sim. Well, Texas A&M went down 23-13. And that puts us up to number 12 in the polls, plus we're playing 2-7 South Carolina. We'd also take them down, so all we have to do now is beat 4-6 Vanderbilt at home. This shouldn't be a problem. Though even with that result, I think we're going to miss out on the SEC championship unless Texas drops another game. I can't even be sad about that though, because we're about to become a playoff team. And that's so surprising. This rise in season number 6 has been incredible. I might have gotten a little bit too far ahead of myself though. We ended up losing 27-24. And I couldn't tell you what the tiebreaker is in the SEC, but we're not making the conference championship. I should also point out, Florida only had to play 7 conference games. Kentucky only had to play 6 conference games. I'm not sure how they got that lucky. But as we go into conference championship week, we are really hoping that some of these other teams end up losing. It's time for the moment of truth. Right after the Heisman winner, that type of decision is made, and we've made the Texas Bowl versus BYU. We are literally finishing right on the edge at number 12. Miami was able to get in over an SEC school this time, but I don't think it's fair that Kentucky got in over us. They're 9-3, we're 10-2, and we play in the same conference. I can't believe the EA actually took in strength of schedule though. I mean, we did have a win over a team that got in actually. Middle Tennessee State was good. That's pretty brutal, and we've also lost our defensive coordinator, so we have to hire another one. Gideon Rush is the perfect fit though. He is tactician maxed out, so we're just going to go ahead and offer him. And this is the best early national signing day I think we have ever had. We currently have 22 prospects signed from the state of Mississippi. We're always going to look at the dev traits of these players. We have star on Deion Walters, the quarterback, but what's really important again is their skill caps more than anything else. And after 3 straight seasons of going 500 or over, we are finally getting to play in our first bowl game here at Southern Miss, so we cannot lose this one. Right before we hop in, I will mention that Sammy Hayden's stats as a sophomore look really good. I wish this kid could improve more, but we might have found his replacement in recruiting anyway. Junior running back LaMichael Brooks, solid numbers as well. When it comes to the receiving game, 2 guys with double-digit touchdowns. And it's a real shame that this is going to be senior wide receiver Frank Mallory's final game for us. Just for him, we have to make sure that we take down BYU. And what a terrible draw we have gotten for finishing right outside making the playoffs. I mean, it's made my life a lot easier. The odds of us actually losing this game were pretty low, but we worked all season just to get this as our bowl game. In the end, there's not really much to talk about. It was 28-7. And I thought Sammy Hayden might not live up to the expectation I was holding him to, but he's actually already exceeded it. I feel like just for him, we need to start going down that architect tree so he can hopefully get this accuracy up even more. And I thought we had found our perfect defensive coordinator, but another school stole him. To make matters even worse, after not finding anybody in here that I liked for a couple weeks, I saw that our offensive coordinator also got taken. And what this means is we have to find new coordinators on both sides of the ball, but their recruiting is not going to be as good as what we had. This was the worst timing for something like this to happen since we weren't even a playoff team. But I think we did a good job with our coaching searches since we were able to find 2 tacticians. Each one of them also has a little bit of recruiting bonuses, but it mainly just does with their scouting. And if I could just level up quicker so we had more coach points, we would have already maxed out this tree and architect. I still don't know what pathway I really want to go down. Notre Dame won it all. And one of our players wants to transfer out because of our coach prestige. If he leaves, he leaves. If he doesn't, he doesn't. He decided to stay, but look at all of these seniors graduating, plus the ones going on to the NFL draft. I don't think it had really clicked how good this roster actually was until I saw results like this. And here in the transfer portal, I'm already seeing 4 players from the state of Mississippi that we can go after. I don't know where this was in all the previous seasons, but right now we're going to do our best to take advantage of it. Again, since all these players are from Mississippi, you might recognize their names since they were players we couldn't land originally. And I think we're going to bring in every transfer because our school grades have gone up so much. Joining the SEC might have been the greatest thing that could have happened to Southern Miss. But even if we've recovered from being a 1-11 school, we still have to also recover from only being able to recruit out of the state of Mississippi. I think we're doing as good as we possibly could, even though we're not the top class in our conference, of course. Number 20 is definitely progression. And a lot of these transfers that have come in are just going to help out our teams overall even more. I do have a pretty big worry though about our team after this season because as you can see, we have a load of guys that are seniors. And I couldn't scout most of these prospects we recruited, but Scott Breeze is a 72 overall freshman quarterback. For some of the other positions like the elusive backs, we could put them at corner, we could put them at wide receiver, and it took me a while to figure out where exactly I wanted to move everybody, but we have some super good players that are on this team currently. The one position though that I think is a little bit lacking is quarterback, so what we're probably going to have to do still, instead of starting Tyquan Durham, is just put Sammy Hayden out there for a third season. And I think what I'm starting to learn is I can't go after the 1 and 2 stars inside Mississippi because they're just bringing our team overall down. It feels like every single season whenever it comes to quarterbacks, we're having to make a ton of different cuts, though I'm really hoping that Deion Walters can become somebody for us. And I'm about to be way more picky about the guys that we actually bring in. There's a 5-star from Mississippi that we can target, but there's really not that many 4-stars, unfortunately. So we'll see how many of these guys I actually care to sign, but I don't want to see bust out of the state. That's not what we need. Our team needs for the next 2 years are going to be extremely low. We only have 9 seniors, then 11 juniors. It's pretty much all younger underclassmen. Outside of recruiting, our schedule looks like it's going to be pretty easy again this season until you get to the at Texas, at Alabama, and at Tennessee 3-game streak. So I'm not looking forward to those matchups at all, but we do have 2 senior wide receivers that can handle their cornerbacks. Now I will say, without all our recruiting coordinators, you can see it's taken a big hit to the amount of hours we can put on these players. I'm not sure how many we'll actually sign, but that's all a part of having a good season. You're going to lose some of your coaches, and it also might cause some of these players to want to transfer. The only way we are going to get our coach prestige to rise again is if we're winning football games. And I'm already afraid that something might not be right with this team because we just lost 35-13. Not that much has changed from this season to last season though. I'm not quite sure why that happened. And if we're also losing to Utah State at home, I'm afraid that we're about to fall off super hard. At the moment, we're set to run away with all these recruiting battles still, but I feel like that's about to shift. And I wanted to save all the games I could hop into until later in the year, but now I feel like we have to use one at Tulane. We simply can't let ourselves start this season 0-3. And I have made sure that that is not going to happen. We've already gotten ourselves a 10-point lead. With a few minutes left, we're running for another touchdown. But the thought that we could have dropped this is super scary. There was so much pressure on us going into this game. And at least now with an FCS school on our schedule next, I feel like we can relax a bit. Just advancing through the week, we're going to be able to pick up our first 4-star. And we actually got 2, but we did lose out on the quarterback, which doesn't bug me because we already have plenty of QBs on this roster. As you can see, we've also gotten a lot of 3-stars already, but our main focus is going to be finishing out these battles for the 4 and 5 stars. Of course, they're coming on a visit this week against Missouri. And that means, especially since the Tigers are currently 4-0, we're going to have to play against them, but then we're only going to have one more game to jump into this year against one of these 3 teams. I've already written off our playoff hopes for this season though. We just had too slow of a start to the year. And now the pressure is on us to finish out strong. What I'm starting to realize though is we're at the point in the rebuild where as long as I play the game, we should be able to win, at least against some of these weaker opponents versus whenever we have to go on the road at a ranked 1. There's no longer huge deficits that I have to overcome or tight finishes. It's mainly us just going out there and playing better than the other team. So that's a relief. We put on a good show in front of the visiting recruits. And that's how we've been able to sign the second 5-star in Southern Miss school history. Of course, we're going to pick up all the other valuable pieces as well. Pretty much the only other players we're going after are on our board at the moment. And the rest of this season is all going to be determined by how we perform in sim. I have liked what I've seen in the last 2 weeks. We've won both those games, but now we're about to go on that 3-game stretch where we have to play tough teams on the road. And if we want any chance at making the SEC championship, we're going to have to play against Alabama next week. That does mean just crossing our fingers against Texas though, which is not great. There were lots of points in this rebuild where we took the Longhorns down by sim. This was not one of them. And that might ruin our SEC title hopes, but if we win against number 2 Alabama on the road, we're going to be right back in the playoff hunt. This is going to be pretty tough, but I think it's worth taking our shot at them. And I think we're in a pretty good spot with 4 minutes left, but we're taking a sack. Now we have to attempt a 52-yard field goal. I mean, this thing is shaking so fast. There's absolutely no way that I was going to hit this. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. I still think we can redeem ourselves though. If they just take their drag, they're not going to get much. And here we go. This is a pretty big 3rd and 14. The crosser's not going to get open in time. So what we've done is made it so we have a decent chance at just hanging on to this lead. Now this is our freshman receiver. He's probably going to be the best one on this team in a few years, but I can't say that he's the fastest, and I shouldn't have even thrown it to him. The problem is if we don't pick up a first down, Alabama's just getting the ball back. And at the moment, we're only averaging 2 yards per carry, so we're hoping for the best right here. Comeback route, perfect from Kaiser. That's why we lean on our best receivers in some of these tough moments. But we have a problem. It is now 3rd and 17, and we cannot run out the rest of this clock. I think it's better if we take a sack, though. I might have been able to hit our receiver over the middle right there, but I just wanted to make sure that for a guaranteed fact, the clock continued to run. This bounce is going to take it all the way to like the 30, and you know what? Don't touch the ball. That's just going to run more time. All right, as long as they don't get into field goal range, we're perfectly fine. They might have burnt me. I'm glad they threw it away. And we got to continue to stick in this zone coverage. This time it's cover 3. Whatever it is, it can't give up big passes. The Alabama quarterback has been looking in the direction of the sideline because that's what they needed if they wanted to get out of bounds and stop the clock. Instead, though, they've just thrown this up, and there is simply no way that went well. It was not pretty, but we have clutched up on the road against number 2 Alabama. That's going to leave us with these 3 games. We're ending the season at 7-2 Texas A&M. That's going to be at Kyle Field. So I'm not expecting us to make the playoffs, but if we did, that would be huge for Southern Miss. No matter what, though, we have overcome the terrible start that we had to this season. And we took down Vanderbilt 45-7, but the week before, we played Tennessee, and that did not go well. We lost this 27-0. It was our worst offensive performance of the year. Sammy Hayden threw 3 interceptions, and I've started to accept that he's probably hit his ceiling as a college quarterback. We'd also lose to Texas A&M, so we're finishing this season at 7-5. And I think things could have been a lot different if we didn't have the Coach XP setting on slowest. We would have been able to unlock the architect skill tree. We would have made it so Sammy Hayden didn't have such a bad junior year. But he did us well in the few years he started for this program, and Tyrone Gillis is a new starting running back for us. I think it's because one of our other guys, LaMichael Brooks, just became worse. What I was not expecting to see, though, with 2 88 overall senior receivers that have been amazing for us, was our freshman, Derek Taint, to be the number 1 guy. And I was so ready to get into next season, I wasn't even thinking. I just simmed over a bowl game against Maryland where they beat us 45-27. That's the writing on the wall that we have got to make some changes. And I think we're also about to lose junior Carlos Cantrell to the NFL. He's a 92 overall. Yeah, he's not coming back. With some of our best receivers in school history just graduating, I think we should move over to a rushing attack. I mean, we did sign that 5-star running back. And as long as there's good players from the state of Mississippi, if we continue to get these players into the NFL, we're going to have plenty of guys to choose from. I've been so surprised in how the transfer portal has treated us throughout this entire thing. I might not even want some of these players. But there were so many seasons where we weren't able to do this, so now I'm going to take full advantage of it. We ended up having 0 issues signing the biggest name. He was only a 3-star, but he was ranked in the top 75 nationally, so we'll take that alongside some of these other dudes. I think I might have over-recruited again, though, even though this class only came in at number 31, so I think next season we're just going to have to refrain from it. And I think the thing I'm looking for the most in training results is for Alexander Fowler to somehow jump Tyrone Gillis in overall. That didn't exactly happen, but I do see him as an 88, so that's better than what it was. We also need to have a quarterback that's progressed, and Tyquan Durham has. There is still too many players on this roster, though, so we're going to have to make some cuts. It actually does not feel right doing this, but Sammy Hayden's a senior, and he's taken up a spot. He's gone. I wanted him to at least get an opportunity somewhere else, and since this next class needs to be super tiny, I'm probably only going to recruit guys that are 4-star gyms or 4-star standouts. There's going to be very few players we go after, but the schedule this game has generated for us this year might be the worst I've ever seen. Why do we even have Houston, Miami, and Charlotte on this schedule? They just wanted us to be stuck with something terrible, but now we have to decide which quarterback we want to start, and I think Tyquan Durham's going to take the lead because his accuracies have already improved. Deion Walters is going to have more potential with his star development. I guess he's also maxed out his accuracies already, but they're not as good, so yeah, he's going to be the backup. Then at running back, we're not starting senior Tyrone Gillis. I don't know where he came from, but Alexander Fowler, the 5-star we recruited, is the guy that I want to make sure gets out there on the field. His quickness could still increase too. When I was scouting like the 10 4-stars from Mississippi, though, what I was not expecting was for 5 of them to be gyms and then the 6th dude to have 92 speed. That's amazing news for this class. It means that we're going to get 6 studs if we're able to get all of them to come to our school. But I don't think we're going to have any issues with that, even though our school grades did pull back a little bit after last season. Now, the hard part for me is deciding which of the games on our schedule we actually want to play since there's so many ranked opponents. And to be honest, I think I want to try and make the SEC championship, so we're just going to avoid the non-conference slate and play the SEC ones. I'd say that decision worked out pretty well because not only did we beat Charlotte by 4 points, but we also won at number 10 Houston at the time by 18. And now we start the more difficult matchups against Auburn. I have scheduled a lot of players for a visit for this game. Even though they're the higher overall team, I think it's what it's going to take if we want to get some of these 4-star gyms. And those are the few players that we're going after in this class. It's not like we have anything else to look forward to after that. Making sure that we start a season with a lot of wins is how we almost made it to the playoffs. But we are being faced with a 3rd and 6. We have our left-handed quarterback thrown it back shoulder, and they knocked it out. We have had to settle for 2 field goals, but we're trying to figure out the new offense. And eventually, Taekwon Durham's probably going to be a lot better for us, but for now, we'll just hand it off. We are trying to end this first half with a big lead over Auburn, but we're still struggling to pick up a few more yards. I think the power read here could be huge. We are able to get it off, and that is a touchdown. It was the backup Gillis that took it in, though. And I'm just hoping as the year goes on, former 5-star Alexander Fowler gets more established, we dominate it. And since we only gave up 7 points, this player of the game makes some sense. The commitment should also start to flow in. And sure enough, we were able to get 4 of them. Every single player that came on that visit said they were impressed with our school. We still haven't closed out on these other 2 yet, but it looks like we will in the future. And sure enough, there we are inside the top 25, ranked below Charlotte, who we beat in our first game. I'm not a huge fan of the disrespect, but that has to go out the window if we're able to beat Miami too. And it was a close game. Even 10 years into the future, Miami still doesn't have a defense, but they did beat us by 2 points. Looking at the rest of our schedule right now, I think we're going to play at number 17 Kentucky and then against Alabama, simming the rest of the year, though these could also be tough. And what I've realized from just taking a deeper look at our roster is with a lot of these players being sophomores, we're probably not going to win a championship for another 3 seasons. By the time all of them, including Taekwon Durham, are seniors, I think that's going to be our best shot. So I'm no longer as worried about this season going as well for us. I might have been a little bit too quick to say that our defense is elite. We've given up 21, but we're about to get to 35 because there's no way they could press 10. That was what we needed in that situation. I was also super confident they were running there, but a bad throw on 4th and inches means this game is pretty much over for us. We're going to beat the Wildcats on the road at Kroger Field. That's about what I was expecting hopping into this one. I think we've set ourselves up well. And maybe Taekwon Durham should have been the starter for us last season. To keep it more realistic though, I didn't want to bench somebody that had started for us for 2 years prior to that. Texas A&M also has a chance to take us down. And we've gotten the commitment from Dalvin Willie, but there's still this one linebacker that's been super hard to get to our school. He was on a visit for the Texas A&M game, but I can tell that we didn't win. And since I've already looked at our upcoming schedule, I might just sim against Alabama and see where we're standing by the time that we get to weeks 12 and 13. This team is better than last season's, but the record might not even show for it. And there it is. Eventually, Greg Golston would want to come to Southern Miss. Well, it turns out Alabama's the number 1 team in the country. Can't be surprised that they beat them, but Texas has started to lose, LSU has started to lose, and we're ranked 13th. That's all the stuff that happened as we advanced through the year. I feel like we should be able to make the playoffs. And of the 2 games coming up, the Texas one makes the most sense to sim. They're 1-5 in SEC play. I can't believe we've lost to them again though. I will never sim against the Longhorns again. I don't care what happened in those first seasons. They just blew us out, ruining our playoff hopes. We aren't even inside the top 25. We fell from 13 to completely out of it. And this is the 2nd season in a row where I really don't care how it finishes. I mean, we should beat LSU. I thought that one was at Death Valley. That's why I wanted to play the game against the Tigers more. But I shouldn't have doubted Steve Sarkisian and the Texas Longhorns. I mean, our junior receiver literally went off for almost 300 yards against an LSU defense. Their quarterback threw 3 interceptions. Taekwon Durham had 7 touchdowns, almost 500 passing yards. I mean, this final score is just ridiculous. And you know what? I will take this season as a good building block to us eventually winning it all in a couple of years, hopefully. Next season should just be another year where guys are hopefully developing. With our bowl game, we're going to get Minnesota. And since I simmed the last one, I am going to actually hop into this just to make sure that we can keep all this momentum moving in the right direction. I think we should be okay against Minnesota, even though they're ranked, they're an 80 overall. But I was completely wrong. They ended up beating us by 17. And so the only real positive I can take away from this season is we were able to find somebody that has elite dev and 94 speed. Cole Capps could be a future Heisman winning running back. I'm disappointed in that performance, but we still had a good season all around. Taekwon Durham just has to pull back on the interceptions. And from a rushing perspective, Alexander Fowler was only 3 yards away from going over 1,000. I think we have a real shot at making an SEC championship next season with this team. I have noticed that the slot receiver is always going to be the number 1 guy. And I think I'm just going to start putting our highest overall receiver in that position every year. When it comes to players leaving, of course, we're losing a few seniors, but nobody too major. This kid says he is guaranteed to come back. And I really love how consistent we've been at getting guys into the NFL. Those players don't come from the best of classes either. There's one transfer from the state of Mississippi. He's not interested in coming home. So these 6 players are going to be the final 6 that we sign in this entire class. I don't care how low this thing is ranked. We did not need to have another one with like 20 or 30 players. And Cole Capps is able to become a 77 overall tight end, but we're probably just going to leave him as a running back. I'm pretty nervous for what these training results are going to look like. We are going to be a 91 overall though. I'm seeing a lot of players above that 89-90 threshold. And I'm impressed with how good Taekwon Durham has become for somebody that has normal dev, though I wish his quickness would get maxed out already. We still have another year for those guys to develop though. I'm gonna cut a couple players just to up our overall a little bit. And then I'm also gonna make sure that our secondary is getting as many boosts as they possibly can. I think that's gonna be pretty helpful. We should also do the same thing for our defensive line. We haven't been able to upgrade Coach Huff that much during this rebuild. That's where the other coordinators come into play. And this team is officially a 92 overall, but keep in mind, all these guys are juniors. I'm more shooting for a championship next season instead of this year. I think it's safe to say that we have a window even this year though, and looking at our schedule, we have number 1 Georgia, number 9 Kentucky, but that's about it. The players from the state of Mississippi are also looking super good, so we're going to continue to build up this roster just in case the next 2 years don't go that well. Between the 13 players that we can currently go after, I feel like we have a solid base of guys that would definitely help us out. But as much as I'd love to play with some of these dudes, even like this 5-star receiver with 94 speed, 98 jumping, 6'4", I'd much rather us win it all in the next couple seasons. We've had players like that before at Southern Miss. They're special, but they're not a necessity. And of course, we're going to win that first game, but we're about to sim through like the next 4. Until we have to play number 1 Georgia, there's not really a reason to hop into any of these. Or at least I thought, because we've been dominating these opponents, but Louisiana Tech is ranked inside the top 25. I might regret this, but if they have a bad season, I don't want to have a bad loss on our schedule. And if they have a good season, this is just going to further boost up our rank even farther. I think everybody expects us to put this one away, but we have to get more defensive stops like this right here. And that's exactly what we needed to see in that situation. Now we can run it. We're going to pitch it over to Alexander Fowler, and this kid needs to be a little bit quicker. He had a decent game for us, but our offense really didn't score that many points. But we've gotten to the point on this file where we should not be losing that rivalry. And I hope I'm doing enough in recruiting. Even without those recruiting coordinators, we've already lost 1 battle to Ole Miss. But besides that, we seem to remain in the lead for all these other prospects. We just have to get them to actually sign. We have also moved up to number 8 in the top 25. But in order for that to continue, now we have to go on the road and beat Arkansas. It's normally a pretty good sign that you won if you ever get some commits. And we didn't just get 1 of them this week, we got 4 of them. So I can't say I'm surprised we won 37-7. The real test is against number 10 Georgia though. They've lost a game, we're hosting them, they're a 91 overall. And of course, it's also going to be the game of the week. I will say, we've been able to turn around Southern Miss a little bit faster than I thought we would in the SEC. But the true test of how good we actually are is if we can consistently take down teams like the Bulldogs. They're going to have deep rosters that can beat whatever we're recruiting out of just Mississippi. I don't care what the overalls say, this kick is going to put us up by 3. And fortunately, as this game has gone on, we have remained out in front by that same difference. We're about to get a touchdown as well. So I feel like we're in a pretty good position against Georgia. We're just going to hand this off and we'll take it in. Our offensive line is no question the best one we have ever had. On 4th down, they have thrown it straight to Uchi. He gets the interception, and you know what? We got to go for the pick 6 as well. I kind of just want to run up the score versus the Bulldogs. It feels so good to be beating them. I mean, we are throwing it straight over that corner. And the struggles we had earlier on in this game are no longer affecting us. Even in the rain, the Golden Eagles are playing pretty well. And I think 13 points is the most that any team has been able to score on us this season. That is something that I want to keep an eye on, because at the moment, I'm inclined to think that we're going to have the greatest defense in the SEC this season. Look at the rest of our schedule. Besides this 4-game road stretch, I'm feeling pretty good. I don't care that UMass is 4-2. They're not in a conference. They're not going to be good enough to beat us. And this one was not even close. 63-7. I have to imagine that we had a great offensive performance, and we definitely did, both running and throwing the ball. We've already made it halfway through this season. Both Alabama and Auburn are on top of the SEC. And I'd normally play Kentucky, but I know that we still have LSU on our schedule, who only has 1 loss. It's a road game coming up after that one. As you can see, we did bring in the 1 5-star from Mississippi. And I made the right decision in simming this, but at the same time, LSU lost, so this game's no longer as important. I want to play the teams that could ruin our chance at winning the SEC championship. We just don't have like any left on our schedule. And you know what? After seeing that they stole this 4-star from us, we're probably going to go play the Tigers. Losing him's not the end of the world though. Auburn also stole a prospect from us. If you look at our board right now, we're set to get like 10 good prospects. And that's plenty, but it's time to go see how we do in Death Valley. It's probably going to be pretty difficult. I mean, this team is still good, but I was not expecting to drop myself into a situation where we are down by double digits against them in the 4th quarter. We also did not catch that ball, making this a very crucial 4th down that we're going to convert. And I don't want our undefeated season to end here, so I've started to run some Wildcat, which is working pretty well. Now we have them on a 3rd and long. I feel like they shouldn't be able to convert right here. All we have to do is get out there and make a tackle. But we also have to continue to move the rock, and if they're getting in pressure, I'm trying to scramble, but it's a fumble. I think we have to challenge this right here. I feel like we were already down before before that ball came out. Yeah, we were. And just taking another look at it, watch that knee again. It hits the ground, but it got punched at the same time. You know, I'm not sure I can even blame the refs for that decision. We shouldn't have lost the ball in the first place. It's just going to make it even harder for us to win this game. That pass hit a lineman, I think. And we have to remember that we only have 2 timeouts, but we should still be able to make throws like that. The defense on this team is very, very good, but our offense is an issue. I'm hoping that they don't break for that ball. They do. They're getting another turnover against us, and this is probably going to go for quite a bit. Can we just at least knock him down or out of bounds, please? I mean, it really wouldn't matter. They ended up scoring a touchdown, making it a 17-point game. We were not going to come back against LSU. And I was better off simming instead of actually playing this one. To be completely fair, I did sim to the fourth quarter before we jumped in, but now I have to sim through the rest of the season. And let's just see where we're going to be sitting once we get to week 15. Normally, I'd want to keep up with each individual matchup, but I don't have the heart to watch this team miss the playoffs again. But I guess that's something we don't have to worry about. As you can see right here, we only lost to Tennessee too, and we're playing LSU as a rematch in the conference championship. They're ranked number 3 in the country. My loss to them is not that embarrassing. Both of us are 10-2 though. So you can tell the rest of the country's been pretty weak. Oregon's ranked number 2 at 9-3. I mean, what is this? Clearly nobody's had a great season, but I think even if we lost this game, we'd still be in the playoffs. I don't want to take the victory lap on that yet, but I am pretty excited to get us there, especially since next season is supposed to be the big one where we try to win it all. And I learned my lesson in simming too much against LSU. We are going to play most of this game because of that. On 4th down, all we have to do is take our drag to make sure we move the chains. And you can see that they've already gotten onto the board against us, so that's why that is so important. But they could have intercepted it. I knew the receivers on last year's team were better than what we had this year, but it's really starting to show more. And trying to keep up with LSU in this first half has just been exhausting. At the moment, we're still down by 7. We dropped it into an interception, and they get to celebrate like they did something amazing there. We should have been tying things up. My goal has been to make up for that, though, here in the third quarter, trying to run it more. But it's simply just not as fun. It doesn't get as many yards, and here's our drag on 3rd down. Now we got hit. I needed an extra second there in the pocket. I shouldn't have talked good about our offensive line. At least I know we're playing a super quality opponent. I could have rushed in right there. What is our zone doing? That's your spot. You can't run man-to-man because they play even worse coverage than that, but it is pretty frustrating to see. And I just wish we had the speed to beat some of these corners deep. Instead, we're going to take a sack. It is so frustrating knowing that they can just come out and press us whenever they want. At least we're throwing for the first down. And this play out of Wildcat has worked for us before. We just got to get good blocks like this. We might be running this more in the playoffs. At least we're in a decent spot against them with 5 minutes left. We could be taking the lead with a touchdown. They have gotten us to a 3rd and 12 though, which I'm worried about. That was not open over there. And here we go. We're going to go for it on 4th down. I'm waiting for somebody to get open. And I think we're just going to have to throw this up. No, we didn't have enough time to get it off. I am really struggling using the pocket passer. I also might have bit down too far. They tested my user. They've completed it. They have also stayed in hurry up mode, which is not exactly the best of signs because they're going to get another first down. I can't believe it, but we're about to lose to LSU again. We need to have this box stacked on 3rd and 2. I made the perfect play, and I swear I just dragged that corner down on the outside at the perfect time. You can watch it back to see it for yourself. Here is the thing, though. We now have to drive down the field and have success versus the Tigers. This is not a great start, except we caught that football. This was not placed where it needed to be. I cannot believe he also got a foot down, but I can't say anything bad about our receivers after they pull off something like that. I'm going to have to continue to look in Amari Hopez's direction. Right here, it's going to be short for a 4th and 2, but I don't mind running that play back. We should have the exact same thing open, and if not that, our running back, he dropped it. We're going to lose the SEC championship because of that. We've lost LSU twice. I am so sick of seeing Morgan Kegler's name. I don't want to play him again. But now that I think about it, this game doesn't act like the real committee, so there's a chance we're punished for losing the conference championship. Of course, the LSU quarterback won the Heisman, but what I'm worried about is advancing to our bowl game. Please tell me we're in the playoffs. Oh, we gotta go through awards. I will say 19 sacks for Dennis Volk is pretty crazy. He's probably gonna clean up like all the defensive awards possible. We've made the playoffs versus North Texas. I'd say this draw feels like a bailout, but LSU is the 1 seed and we'd have to play them if we beat the Mean Green. That's going to be a challenge for sure. Looking at our recruiting class one last time, it's early National Signing Day. We got 9 total 4-stars. We have elite dev on this right guard. I'm hoping to see more than just stars, and that's what we've got, an elite on a receiver. Steven Rochelle is the best receiver we found in the last 3 or 4 years. And I think that's why we're in this position in the first place. We need another season for our guys to improve a little bit more. North Texas is just an 85. 64. And my expectation is Tyquan Durham should be able to shred through them, though his stats, he needs more passing touchdowns. That's what I want. I know it's a lot for a quarterback, but if he's not getting rushing touchdowns as well, I've seen higher numbers, especially since he's more of a pocket passer. And sure enough, the best receiver with the most touchdowns and catches on the team is Amari Lopez. He's the one that had that aggressive catch on the sideline. All of our receivers, though, are like the physical archetype. They're not the fast archetype, and that's the one that I'm so good at abusing. I mean, this kid only has 88 speed. It is what it is, though. I am ready for our first game in the college football playoffs ever. We even get to host it at Southern Miss, which is just a nice thing for our fans to have. And I don't think this is going to go very well for them at all. I mean, we've just run it down their throats so far. I'm sure they were a good team in all this season, but there's a chance we go into the half up 28-7. And I am very happy with us opening up the playoffs with a win like this. I don't know why I'm rolling out to that side with a lefty, but we had someone wide open. You know, I will never complain about getting a blowout win in the first round of the playoffs. It just gives us a little bit of momentum. It doesn't hurt that we had to play that game. And Alexander Fowler, the former 5-star, the first one we ever signed, performed very well. I want him to be rewarded for choosing to sign to Southern Miss, because he even let us redshirt him. He has believed in the program, he's stuck around, and his potential is just going to keep on getting better, since the only skill caps that haven't really improved are stuff like quickness. I'd almost be okay if we did lose again to LSU, just so we get to use him next season, especially because looking at how this bracket's working out, it's going to be very hard to win a championship. Miami's in there, there's lots of SEC still. We will see how we perform for the third time against the Tigers, and I really hope, if anything, we're simply not embarrassed. Losing a tight game against them would be pretty respectable, but we're running it a lot more than even the last two, which should also add to a lot of clock being drained and us not getting beat by a lot. LSU's been able to force me into a lot of turnovers, so I'm simply just trying to prevent that. And apparently we were like half a yard short right there, but that is completely fine. I trust our defense as well. We stopped the Tigers. And as you can see, we are not going away from the run anytime soon, though that pitch has got to be better. What we really need is our blocking to just line up perfectly on a play like this. But this is exactly why I normally stick to throwing it, because whenever you have multiple mistakes like that, you're out of field goal range. We lost too many yards. This is going to be a very, very difficult kick. But you know that I'm good at hitting kicks on this game. That was perfect. That felt so good, all for us to just give up 14 straight points. And after almost throwing a pick on third down as well, I tried to kick another field goal. Then it took 2 plays to give up another touchdown. You can see us just completely collapsing against them in this game. It happens every time we play. I'm so sick of them always having our number, though the blocks are lining up well. And here we go, 3rd and 1, touchdown on the line. We just gotta fight for it. This is what causes me to go away from the run. We can barely pick up a yard sometimes. But we are right back in this football game to start the 4th quarter. That's what we needed. After getting it back here on 3rd and 7, I'm throwing that hitch route no matter what. It's dropped. And we probably don't need to be this aggressive and go for it here, but I feel like we should be able to catch something. Our defense has been hit or miss. I mean, we're trying to stop the Heisman winner, so that's why I would much rather just be aggressive. And here we go. Now we're starting to get a little bit of momentum, but the pitch just goes behind us. We're going to have to pick this up and lose like 20 yards. That's my favorite run in the game. I cannot believe how broken it is at the moment. We're not even getting this out. And it's my fault for running back something I know that's pretty broken, though at least they're not getting anything. It's going to take going 90 yards down the field, but we can win this game, and that's a very good thing. Tisms is catching the ball. Tisms. I know that I'm going to have a sponsor on this video, so I'm not going to say anything past that. We're taking the drag route, and you know what? We could get even more. We're about to hit the 2-minute warning now. I mean, I have been chewing a lot of clock because I don't want them to have a chance to respond no matter what happens. And this is the type of blocking and reads that we've needed to make all season. I love the concepts that we're running at the moment. If we have to step up, I guess that we can get it. But my expectation was that was not going to end very well, and there's like no blocks. 4 yards a pop will get you into the end zone though, so we'll continue to do it anyway. I'm just so used to breaking off like 30, 40, 50 yards plays that it always feels like nothing when we run. And surely they know this ball is going straight back to Alexander Fowler. We're going all the way to the 1. All right, it's now 3rd and goal. I did not realize when I called that play it was going to chew as much clock as it did, but it is perfect. That accelerated clock can really mess you up, but we got into the end zone. All we have to do now is hold on. We are going to take down LSU. It took 3 attempts, but they're not going to get it right here. You know, we could have had an SEC championship, but that didn't happen. Southern Miss couldn't win that. Maybe we could next year, or we could just win it all this season. I think after overcoming our greatest fear, we can get it done no matter who we have to play. And just looking at this bracket, the ACC and the SEC have been super dominant. Miami was not the team that won the conference championship though. I'm pretty sure they lost to Stanford since they didn't get their first round bye. And we're about to see how our conference is going to stack up against the ACC. These are the two runner-ups, and Miami was already able to score versus our defense, but we're going to be able to get back against them. And one thing I've picked up from this first half is neither team wants to play defense. It's looking like it's going to be all tied at 21, though we're continuing to run. Now you have to wonder, with 15 seconds left, can we get into field goal range? I feel like we should have a good throw there. And that definitely hurts our chances. They're going to get a sack. They also scored 14 straight points in the third quarter. They came out wanting it a little bit more than us, though we should be able to at least catch this. And going into the fourth quarter, we have some work to do. I wish I could say our rushing totals were higher in this game, but we have not gotten that many yards on the ground, which is why we are extremely lucky. They threw an interception just 2 plays later, and we now have it down inside the red zone again with a chance to tie things up right here. It was JD Uchi that was able to get it for us, and that's one of our safeties. I have used him plenty of times this year. We just got to put that in. I don't want to say anything about Miami collapsing yet though, because even if that is pretty typical for the Hurricanes, I don't want to jinx it since this one is still far from over. I do think we're going to be okay though. Alexander Fowler broke off a 35-yard run to get us down here, and on 3rd and goal, I'm waiting for our drag to get open so we can catch it. Even better, we have them on a 4th and inches. I've run commit and we just missed. We literally would have had them beat. They'd score a touchdown after that, but you know what? I am thankful because they have left us with 2 minutes left, and that's plenty for us. All we have to do is get into field goal range. That could have been intercepted. Instead, Alexander Fowler just got us 15 yards, and I've been waiting for him to have a breakout game like this right here. I think they're going to get in some pressure, so I'm hoping that we can make this guy miss, but we should go out of bounds. There was definitely part of me that wanted to spam a spin move, but it would not have been the right decision. And all that matters is we are able to clinch our spot in the national championship. We are so close. I actually really like that run. With how things are lined up here, we have like a clear path to just take advantage of it. And it's out a single back wing pair. This is the formation you need if you want to run the football well. I don't think it's going to work as well versus a goal line defense, but we're setting up to hit a field goal. And one more run can't hurt us, just in case we did want to punch it in. This is been a stressful playoffs, but it's also been extremely rewarding. And Alexander Fowler was just 1 yard short of 100. He's gotten us to the big game though. It's against number 2 Stanford. And I just realized if we're going to win the championship, we would have had to beat the number 1, the number 2, and the number 3 seed. It doesn't get any harder than this, and this is the team that beat Miami, who just took us down to the wire, so we have to keep that in mind. If we choke this, I don't think it's the end of the world, since most of this starting roster is just going to return. But at the same time, since it is tied with about 4 minutes left, I'd love if we could just take control and win the championship now. This team has been good enough to get to this point. We can no longer question how solid it is. But slinging it out of 4 verticals is not the real strategy I can use for this team, as you can see right here. I've had to play differently, and whenever I'm not stubborn and don't adjust my play style, that's when we tend to struggle. We're going to have to punt it back to them with 3 minutes left. Of course, trusting our defense isn't the end of the world, especially since this punt is beautiful. We basically know they're going to be running the football right here. The question is, can we stop it? That was pretty solid right there. These are the types of boxes that Ashton Jeanty's been having to face all season. And this is a huge 3rd and 3 where they've decided to throw it. We can knock that out. I might have simmed too far if the national championship has just become a battle of field positioning. I mean, if we're getting this at midfield, we're going to be very close to field goal range. And you know that we're just going to settle for 3. There is no reason for us to go for more than that, though we got to get there still. I'm perfectly okay with running Wildcat a couple of times. It seemed like our blocks lined up pretty well on those plays. We're also going to get that here. But I understand that this would be a very difficult field goal to hit, especially with the championship on the line. Stanford's not even taking timeouts yet because they don't think that we'd want to kick from here. We got that throw out with a dude in our face. We're going to make a couple of guys miss. And now they're starting to feel the pressure. We are trying to just run this clock down. The halfback draw is going to lead to us bursting all the way to the 3. And that was their final timeout, so it is almost better if we don't get in here. I should have run backwards. If this game ends up going to overtime, that might be the dumbest thing that I've done during this entire rebuild. But at the same time, we would deserve to lose this game because we should not give up anything. I remember when we signed David Root, he was an athlete that I said would make for a good linebacker. Now we needed him to clutch up. And he's taken us all the way to a spot in the national championship where we are about to pull it off. I ended up backing up our players so they couldn't burn us deep. I've seen the foolishness that can happen in these situations. I will be extremely salty if we lost off a Hail Mary. I just missed the quarterback right there. But since he stepped out of bounds when the clock hit 0, we've won it all. Stanford put up a pretty good effort. It just wasn't their year. And Coach Charles Huff has had some success here at Southern Miss, who used to be 1-11. He chased the grind. He built up the program. Players like Tyquan Durham made this happen. And I'm not going to forget about Alexander Fowler either. I leaned on this kid because I was throwing too many interceptions, so we had to run it more. Only 5 players ended up getting drafted, but that's because this team was built to win a championship the following season. Though looking at how everybody progressed once it got to training results, I think this team is very comparable to the one that we just won it all with. I'm just glad I was able to turn around Southern Miss even after dropping them in the SEC, and if you want to watch some more rebuilds like this, you made it this far, you might as well check out some of these.